Why would you major in entrepreneurship? That is a great question. I often get asked that by friends, family, and interviewers, all the same. They're just, whether it be from curiosity or out of a disbelief in entrepreneurship as a major itself, there are a lot of questions surrounding it. By the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly why I majored in it, but I'll do you even one better. You'll probably have a pretty good idea about whether majoring in entrepreneurship is worth your time or pursuing entrepreneurship in general. And as a bonus, I'm going to give you 5 more brutally honest answers to a lot of follow-up questions I get after why would you major in entrepreneurship. Hey guys, my name is Josh, and quickly I want to talk about some stats here. So the average starting salary, this comes from PayScale, is $72,000 for an entrepreneurship major in the United States. That is above the average starting salary of some other business majors, but it falls pretty much right there in the middle. So if anything, majoring in entrepreneurship does not hurt your career prospects. In fact, I think it might even make it a little bit better. And another thing I want to talk about is 90% of startups fail. Anyone who's watching this right now, I'm sure you've had some sort of thought about starting your own business. And well, the cold water, and this is from Investopedia, is that 90% of startups fail. Those are not good odds if you're just trying to start your own thing. But the good news is, and this is the final stat point that I want to touch on before I get into the story here, is entrepreneurship majors, that ENT, entrepreneurship majors create better businesses. And what do I mean by that? Well, I have some stats to back it up. So entrepreneurship majors are far more likely to start a business. They file for roughly 20% more patents than other business majors. Entrepreneurship graduates are 2 times more likely to start their own business, and the businesses that they do start are more likely to succeed than their regular business counterparts who went off and made their own business. And exposure to just one entrepreneurship course significantly increases intent to start up your own company. So something that the entrepreneurship major is teaching people is actually creating new businesses that are more successful than without an entrepreneurship major. The Global Entrepreneur Monitor showed that startups that were started by formally educated entrepreneurs tended to last longer and actually thrived way better. And so with these quick stats, I just wanted to show you that right off the bat, I'm going to give you some validation right away before we even get into the meat of this video, that there is something for you to stay here and watch about, because those statistics do not lie. So why would you major in entrepreneurship? I get this question, and my answer to that is I've always wanted to start a business. When I was a kid, I was selling Legos, and as I grew into a teenager, I got into selling digital files on Etsy. Had some decent success with that. Nothing absolutely major at all. I mean, I think my best month was a couple $100 selling digital files, but print on demand. On my channel, you can see Shopify things. When I was in high school, it wasn't really talked about. You know, people weren't saying that you could major in entrepreneurship. I came into college actually as an aeronautical engineer, changed a couple weeks into international business, switched around to economics, to marketing, and then to finance, which I did keep my finance major. And but there was just something about finance that wasn't as interesting to me. I wanted the creativity, I wanted the problem solving that I felt like only comes in an entrepreneurial environment. So I picked up a double major, I took some extra classes, but I really wanted to do it, and I figured, hell, I'm already paying for the same amount of school anyway, might as well get some value in other classes that I personally am passionate about. People often perceive entrepreneurship to be synonymous with risk-taking, and that can be true in a sense, but it's calculated risk. I'm going to talk more about that in the following claims, but that's pretty much why I majored in entrepreneurship. I've always thought I've wanted to start a business, and I figured having a formalized education on how to actually start a business would be very helpful in trying to do that. And I give people that answer of I want to start a business one day, and the first claim I always will get is, why not just start a business instead right now? And that is a fair point. You know, there are plenty of people who have started businesses with no formal education. A ton of small business owners never went to college, you know, and that is a reality. Why not just start a business instead? My answer is that I don't know exactly what I would want to start, but I want to have the tools, because in my eyes, entrepreneurship is kind of a lifelong endeavor. You know, all of the entrepreneurship professors that I've worked with or have had at schooling, I'm a student at OU, they have a great entrepreneurship faculty there. They've started and sold their own businesses, but they always stay on board of directors. And frankly, skipping college to try and start a business is an extremely high risk, a risk that I didn't think was worth it. You know, I didn't necessarily want to go into college. working for anybody necessarily other than myself, just because I don't work super well like that, or I found, at least when I came into college, that a lot of the job options lacked passion. And I think, honestly, a lot of people are just looking for something that they care about and something they're passionate about. And I think that matters a lot. So why not just start a business instead? I don't have the tools for it. Sometimes you don't have the idea yet. You might not have that idea that could really be scalable into something. And maybe you've had smaller endeavors like myself. You've sold some digital files, you've done some sales, but you haven't had that idea that you think could really be scalable, and that's fine. You don't have to have it right away. Life is long. Not everyone has to be a 17-year-old millionaire or whatever. Also, entrepreneurship is more than just starting a business, and I'm going to talk about that in question number 2 that I get, or claim number 2. What does entrepreneurship even mean? This is a pretty good question, actually, and I get why people ask it, because a lot of people are confused as to what entrepreneurship means. So I'm going to pull up what I believe it means. This is my definition: someone who can identify and capitalize upon opportunities and bring it to the market. Ultimately, identify an opportunity. So you have to find a problem, and you have to be able to bring a solution to that problem that people want, and that can actually be used, right? That is the bring it to market. You have to be able to go through that whole process. And while that does sound like a lot of starting a business, it's a lot of problem solving. It's a lot of sales, things like that are beyond just I have an LLC and therefore I have a business. That if you wanted to go just by having a business is entrepreneurship, then that's all it is. You could file an LLC today and you'd be a business owner, which is technically true, but it doesn't make you an entrepreneur. Where you have to be able to identify those problems and provide solutions that people actually want. A lot of companies fail in their first year due to a lack of market demand, about half. I'm happy to do a whole video on the main reasons startup fail. So let me know if you'd be interested in that. And so going off my definition, there's a lot of different ways that you could be an entrepreneur. It could be starting your own e-commerce brand. It could be doing window washing sales. I have a buddy who does that up at the University of Oklahoma. Or it could be things like corporate innovation, where you go work for an employer. You're seeing this more and more. This field is growing. Corporate development, commercial development, organic growth strategies. Ultimately, they have intrapreneurs, basically. So instead of going off on your own and starting out new products and new business lines, you're doing it in-house for another company. And so they're trying to take entrepreneurs and help them feel like they have a free-form environment to where they can learn and grow and create, which is what ultimately a lot of entrepreneurs want to do, and the people who have that personality want to do. And they're allowing them to do it in a business environment. So if it was just going off and starting your own business, well, then you couldn't be an intrapreneur, or you couldn't do social entrepreneurship, which is really about going and helping people who are less fortunate start their own businesses. So you're almost more consulting, but you're still an entrepreneur. You might not have your own business, but helping other people create their businesses is, in a form, another way of entrepreneurship. And the people who often ask question 1, why not just start a business? Their backup is then normally over on question 3, and it says, the entrepreneurship major won't actually help you start a business. A lot of people have asked me, why do you need the entrepreneurship major? What can a classroom truly teach you that is applicable to starting a business? They're completely different. People think that you can't learn anything in a classroom environment that is practical entrepreneurship. People will say you don't need a business degree to start a business. I would probably disagree with you. Now, I don't have all the business experience in the world, but the majority of people who go off and start their own business have worked in the workforce for many years. And I would imagine that the networks that you build through your college community and through your actual workplace after college probably are the main reasons that you're able to succeed. You have a massive network. And that is the first point I want to get into on why I refute this claim and why I believe the entrepreneurship major will help me start a business in the future. And I'm going off of that network first. The connections that you meet from like-minded people when you can get an environment of other people who know they're interested in either doing corporate innovation or starting their own business or continuing on their family business after college. You meet a lot of different people who all have different reasons for being in entrepreneurship. And I put some things aside. So tools like connections, networking. That is a tool that you learn, and and that I have learned from the entrepreneurship major. You meet so many different people, you connect, you learn ideas, you get really good at creating pitch decks, which are very important for if you're trying to go and get investors, investment round. You don't want to go through a Series A, or even if you're trying to do seed funding, you want to get grants. You have those, and that's more on the financing side here at the bottom is that. But I'll get more into that in just a second. But on tools, you have customer discovery map tools. You have the concept of lean startups, and this is, you're going to have some variance between what university do you get your entrepreneurship major, but largely these ideas are pretty industry standard now as this major becomes more solidified and gains more recognition as being a legitimate career path. Now entrepreneurship, even though most people think it has to be specifically starting your own business, it can be even worked into other businesses and other jobs. Like my internship this summer is organic growth. That is inside of the entrepreneurship field, but it's for a company. So I get to do what I want, but experience it under the guise and advantage of an employer. And there are career opportunities like that are absolutely fantastic that I think often get lost when people hear entrepreneur. Ultimately, the entrepreneurship major is about identifying and solving problems, and they do take it from the standpoint of starting your own business. And a lot of the experience you get going through things that are like financial pro formas, which essentially just means it's your rough estimate of what are going to be your revenues and your expenses for the entire first couple years of your operation. You talk about your runway, you talk about pivoting. I put that as its own point because just because something's not working, and I take, for example, YouTube, trying different things. YouTube is a great starting ground, which I will talk more about that later too for anyone who's wanting to get into entrepreneurship right away. The business model canvas, all of these things, I can do more videos about all of these different tools that I've been taught, the best tools for being an entrepreneur, because they are things that are tested. Entrepreneurship has been studied over and over again. Not many people know that because it's kind of niche, but it's studied in the same way that you study finance. People study marketing. It's just newer, and it's kind of an evolving major. And I believe that with how fast-paced the world is right now and how much problem solving is valued over one set of specific skills, these soft skills are really, really valued. And then getting into the entrepreneurship major won't help you start a business. I want to talk about financing. So there are so many opportunities for college students, specifically when you're enrolled in a university, and it might vary a little bit, but there are government grants, there are pitch competitions exclusive to students, there are naturally near entrepreneurship majors, you can have access to business incubators, business accelerators. You might even find more lenient debt options. You might find free working spaces, fabrication labs, innovation hubs, all these things that are available to entrepreneurship major students because people want to support new ventures. The United States and the world is built on new ideas, and so having an environment that fosters that will absolutely help you grow. And anecdotally, I have two people in my entrepreneurship major who they have started their companies inside of the OU Innovation Hub that is on campus, and they've been able to use the resources. There are lawyers there, there are workshop spaces, there are shipping addresses, there are patent teams. There is plenty of opportunity and things that will help you if you want to start a business and you don't know exactly where to start or exactly what to do, because frankly, entrepreneurship is incredibly hard. It is a much more free-form major, and it is a riskier major, which I'm going to get into here in a second, than some other majors. But it will help you start a business. And I believe that. It is statistically shown that it will do that. And people who say that probably, I don't think it's out of malice. I think it might just be they don't understand that. And a lot of people still think that entrepreneurship is either you have it or you don't, and you can't be taught it. I completely disagree with that. But going off of this risk, a lot of people have told me entrepreneurship is too risky for college. Universities and colleges are a very standard path of progression. You go, you get your degree, maybe you go to law school, maybe you go to dental school after, and that doesn't coincide necessarily with entrepreneurship because there's no set timeline for what is your business going to look like in year one, what is it going to look like in year two, because it's so person dependent. There aren't standardized entrepreneur exams. There aren't things like that that have the same benchmarks. So while I would agree that entrepreneurship is a riskier major, but everything you do is a risk. There's trade offs in every major, and there are risks in everything you do in life. And if you're going to college and you're already paying for tuition, my view is that I already had the finance major that's more established. Finance is interesting. I'm interested in wealth management. That's a great side. But if I can take entrepreneurship classes for no additional fee, then why would I not? There's no downside to that because I'm already in a different major. I wouldn't say necessarily going to college just for the entrepreneurship major is the best idea. I think you always want to have a little something extra, a little something to specialize more, unless you think you have the best idea ever. But in my experiences, what I've seen, going into now my final year of college, I think entrepreneurship is risky for college, but I don't think it's too risky at all. In fact, I think it's less risky than if you had the opportunity to go to college, but you chose not to instead pursue a business. I think you're just taking on different sets of risk, and that's something that, in general, if you want to be an entrepreneur, I think you have to have a higher risk tolerance. In a lot of the research assignments we've had to do for this class, it shows that entrepreneurs are higher risk takers. They can handle a higher risk tolerance. And one thing that I think people ignore about entrepreneurship is that all of the classes that you take when you're an entrepreneurship major, unless you're purely doing book stuff, which in my experience has been absolutely false. We have hardly ever touched books. We've done all research, all actually getting out and talking to customers and doing financial feasibility analyses, creating minimum viable products, having workshops with successful entrepreneurs that essentially create an environment where you can fail, and you can fail extremely hard, but there is no downside because you're in a learning environment that will not punish you in the way the real world will punish your small business. Which that is a massive advantage that I don't think many people even realize is an opportunity in the entrepreneurship program, where you can work on your business. They're not going to steal your idea. They're not going to stamp it out. They're going to support it and help it thrive and help you navigate. And people, I mean, you can't do it alone. You're always going to have help from somebody along the way, and putting yourself in an environment like entrepreneurship majors and professors is going to only help you succeed. In addition, entrepreneurship paired with other majors I think is great. I think you really work on your ability to present well. You do a lot of pitches. You're going to be doing a lot of pitch competitions where you're competing for money, you're creating ideas. You have to think fast and you have to think logically, and you have to be able to defend ideas very well because you're getting grilled by, frankly, investors or seed money. That people are not going to give you money for business if you cannot actually back up what you're saying with statistics and facts and conviction, importantly. And so a lot of those soft skills that even if you didn't go and start your business, even if you majored in entrepreneurship and something else for 4 years and you didn't have a business idea that you wanted to work on, or you couldn't find a startup that you liked, even then you will still advance much further because you have those soft skills. You've got those intangibles that are honestly harder to just have the ability with. And you can learn those things. You can get better at public speaking. You can get better at presenting, all things that are absolutely crucial for being an entrepreneur, unless you're doing just solely online, maybe YouTube faceless stuff. Not that that's a bad idea, but the barrier to entry to that is so incredibly low that the competition is so incredibly sky high. And after I have these conversations with people will say, well, oh, you're an entrepreneurship major. That's great. So what is your business idea? What business are you going to start? What are you doing? Where are you at right now that, everyone wants to know because they hear entrepreneur and they think you've got a business. People, they want to know and they're curious. And my answer to that is multiple things. There are a couple things in the work. And first, and this is what I was talking about earlier that I said I would come back to, I think YouTube is a great way to start your business. I think that you actually can gain so much value in the immediate customer feedback. You get immediate results, and that is really good for learning. You can tell exactly in a video where people drop off, what people liked, what people didn't like. You can see what other people are doing, all for absolutely free. And then you have the ability where you can get AdSense. If you are monetized, you can get affiliate links. You can start a clothing company off of it. You can do merch. You can do all these different monetization avenues, and you'll get really good at building up your digital presence, which is going to be absolutely crucial for almost any business nowadays, that everything continues to move to the online world. Having an online presence and being tech savvy, especially on social media platforms, is incredibly important. So that content creation skill, and you learn how to multitask. You learn how to wear all the hats, where you are not only the scripter, the filmer, and the editor. You're the uploader. You're the channel operations manager. You are everything. You're the one who has to deal with videos getting taken down, copyright strikes. You have to deal with payments of if you hire an editor. You have to deal with working with a lot of different software. You have to buy all your own equipment. Things like that are really good for getting a gauge on, do you really want to do something on your own that's creative? I would recommend trying to start something online. People do this all the time now because it is an easy way to start, and it actually is really good. I've had this channel just under a year, and I can see the growth. And I used to do stock videos. I didn't really like that. I saw the change, the views dropped, and it's about that pivoting concept. Bottom line, I think YouTube is an absolutely fantastic way, and that is what I'm trying to do right now: is get this monetized, get involved, build up a community, and hopefully I can help other people become entrepreneurs too through these videos. And the second thing you see is a little question mark here, a little mysterious question mark, and this is the answer I'll tell other people who, they hear about the YouTube and they're like, oh, cool, content creation. What else? What more standard business are you going to do? My answer to that is it's in the works and it's in a secret. So the one hesitancy I do have with if you share, your ideas are important, and so protect them. If you want to know more about that in a later video, then make sure to subscribe. I will have stuff talking about what my other business is going on right now. And my mindset when it comes to this question is I've started a lot of different smaller things that you could technically call businesses. Like I mentioned earlier, selling digital files, doing some print on demand, the affiliate commissions when I had a 3D printing page back way before the TikTok shop. I was on that e-commerce stuff. I used to try and sell, like I said, Lego sets. I used to try and do some reselling. I used to try and do a lot of like custom Xbox controller plates where I would sand them off and paint them. And that was before there were actual custom controller manufacturers. And the thing that was so great about that is I think I learned a little something about, the experimentation process and creativity along the way. And I think when people are like asking what business you're going to start, I think a lot of like real entrepreneurially minded people embrace failure, and they see the starting and extinction of different businesses as learning opportunities, and that is a great way that you have to think. So right now I'm working on YouTube, and one other thing that I do want to tell you guys about very soon, so I promise stick around for that. You will see it. But I've tried a lot of different things, and YouTube is the one that I've been sticking with right now to see if we can really make content creation work as even a side income, not to replace a job, but to work as a creative outlet that, has profit potential and the costs are relatively low. I think for my entire YouTube channel, I spent maybe $1,000, and that's just mainly because of this camera you're watching me on right now. And anyone who's thinking about they want to start a business, they made it this far in the video, you should start something like a YouTube channel or content creation or social media page. Even if you don't feel comfortable putting your face out there, which I think you should if you want to be an entrepreneur, I think you should get really comfortable with people seeing your face and making judgments about your ideas, because ultimately entrepreneurs are built on ideas and processes. And like I said, my definition of entrepreneurship is someone who's identifying those problems and bringing something to market to try and convince people to buy it. That's how every entrepreneur has ever started. They saw a problem and they convinced people to buy the solution for it. There is a lot that goes into it. And ultimately, those are the things that I hear when someone asks me, why would you major in entrepreneurship? But before you click off, let me tell you one thing. Ultimately, for someone who's entrepreneurially minded, thinking about why would you major in entrepreneurship, remember that college is not just the classroom. It is everything outside of the classroom that you do too. And it really becomes your runway. The thing that I've been working on inside of my entrepreneurship classes has had a year of just free learning and free growth, that it's now coming to something that is financially feasible, that I would have never gotten to this point. Getting here feels so good, and it's so much further than I would have gotten alone, and it is possible, but you need help. You need people to guide you in the way who have been there, and that is one thing where you just have the opportunity to learn from your peers. You can test when the stakes are low. You can talk to mentors. You can do all these great things in an environment that is relatively low stakes. So to circle back to the question of why would you major in entrepreneurship when you're in college, why would you not? You're in the perfect spot where if you want to start a business and you're in college, you are going to be more likely to succeed. You just are. That all the statistics show that. I think college provides a very unique opportunity if you are interested in starting a business. I think there is a way that you can actually propel yourself so much further through entrepreneurship if you're in a college, and I see the value in it. And that's why a lot of very successful entrepreneurs went to a college institution first, because they can provide a lot of value. But do you need college to be an entrepreneur? Probably not. Definitely not. It's been proven. But would it help? Yes. So it's not about having it all figured out right now. It's about just having that safety net in that environment to grow and learn, so that you hopefully, with whatever you want to do in terms of entrepreneurship, which I assume is start your own business, which you absolutely can, you should be majoring. And even if you can't, then subscribe to my channel, because I'm going to keep making videos like this. It's what I like to do. It's what I'm passionate about. And if you're passionate about it, then stick around for it. If you got any value from this video, consider liking and comment what you liked. And also comment if you want to see anything in more depth. This was kind of a bird's eye view to a lot of different concepts in entrepreneurship that I've learned, and I would be more than happy to go in. Just let me know if there's interest there. Subscribe, like I already said, but that's really all I've got for you guys. Thanks, y'all.